Monday, April 7th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, we finish out the IT/CS alternating bits with network monitoring.
Let's do this.
So, for various reasons today, this isn't my opening bit, my anecdote, it's Emily's, but I think it was good. Because, she stayed home, so she wanted some food. And instead of driving to the nearest grocery store, which is actually pretty far away, she went to the local grocery store, which is...
The one that's the bullshit grocery store?
That's the problem, because it has all the great kind of hippie food that I like, but interspersed with all that nice hippie food is homeopathy and fake medicine and just randy bullshit left and right.
Why do they have to have the two things associated? We should just open up a grocery store, right? And we don't say, like, organic or whatever or any bullshit like that. We just say, look, this food is exactly the same as that other food, except because it was grown somewhere near here, it tastes better. That's all. That's the only advantage, really.
Well, also, just in general, they carry things like real root beer. No grocery store here has real root beer, but that place has like 10 different kinds of root beer.
We won't say like, organic, fancy pants, make your life healthier root beer. We'll say, look, this is root beer. It costs more, but it's made with real sugar, and it tastes better.
I don't think they make any claims about the root beer at that place.
It's not so much exact claims written in text, but it's the marketing of it, It's like,
I don't think root beer has ever been marketed as good for you in any way.
Oh, that's a root beer people have something to say to you.
Yeah, you know what? I am a root beer person. As much as I like my Dr. Pepper, deep down, I'm a root beer man. And I can tell you, next time we have the Visigoths over to play some Burning Wheel, have a root beer keg.
Yeah. I don't drink sodas and carbonated things, but I've had root beer dum-dums, and those are actually my favorite dum-dums.
You know what you might really like?
If I were to drink a beverage like that, I think root beer might be my thing.
You could always get the root beer and put it on ice, and then it won't be carbonated anymore, and then it just tastes like a dum-dum.
Really? But they would be flat then. Won't it be blah if it's flat?
Well, it's flat, but you don't like the non-flat. You don't like the bubbly.
But at the same time, if you take away the bubbles, doesn't that alter the flavor?
No, it's more that we like the bubbles.
That's
Normal
it.
people like the bubbles.
I mean, that's sort of like, if you like stale bread better than... Like, if I don't like a loaf of bread, I'm not going to let it go stale. And
but
then
you might, because a dum-dum is just stale root beer.
I know, but I'm saying is, like, let's say there's a loaf of bread, right? And it's a kind of bread I don't like. Some weird, like, bread with all sorts of, like, fish in it or something. I don't know. Some sort of fish bread.
You know what? I wouldn't mind a fish bread.
I'm just
saying.
saying.
Sounds kind of good.
And that, and then the bread goes stale. I'm not suddenly going to like it.
But Scott, it's the opposite. You're one of those people who ate some stale fish bread. You're like, hot damn, I like the stale fish bread. Hey, I wonder if I like the real fish bread. Then you try it and you don't like it. That's what happened to you.
Well,
we'll do some experiment. You can take a sip of root beer, and then you can take a sip of flat root beer, and then you can eat a dum-dum. Maybe
I think I'm actually just going to avoid drinking the sugar water and keep my teeth high quality.
Sugar water isn't what kills teeth. Not brushing them is what kills teeth. Also lemonade.
Yes. Well, lemonade is just another form of sugar water.
No, lemonade is the worst possible thing you can drink. Every dentist will tell you that.
Yeah,
it destroys teeth faster than anything except maybe hydrofluoric acid.
Yeah, well, I mean, lemonade's the worst, but soda is bad also. It's just not as bad.
But anyway, I have a love-hate relationship with this store, as you might guess, because I like half the stuff in there, but I am morally opposed to the other half of the stuff in there. But there's a third factor. The employees are all jackasses, at least the ones I've interacted with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never interacted with the employees there. I think the only thing I ever bought there was a head of lettuce, and then I discovered the homeopathies.
But anyway, Emily went there, and she was buying some stuff, and she saw in line in front of her someone who was Randy times 2. So they had in their basket homeopathy, and they even had asked some questions about like which homeopathy is better. But they also had in their basket Ronnie Brook Farms.
Uh-oh.
Now,
isn't that the farm that our friend warned us is not good?
That is the farm, Ronnie Brook Farms, that we've been warned by people in the know is like the most health-violating farm out there. And
I hope this doesn't get him in trouble.
Emily was thinking about saying something to this woman, and then she realized that perhaps one will punish the other.
All right.
That's all I got, because you have something much more interesting, something the listeners are very, very looking forward to. I don't know why.
Yes, I don't know why either.
Yeah,
so,
wait, we're going to do what? Some sort of inside Geek Nights. How Geek Nights is done. Rim in
No.
his boxers, Scott laying upside down on a chair,
Yeah.
mumbling.
No, so audio podcasts, you obviously like them. You're listening to them, but they don't catch on so much, right? The big thing on the internet now is videos. People like them videos. And we thought about doing the videos, but we didn't have the video skills or equipment.
Or the time, because Geeknights used to take a lot of time for us to do.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
So we didn't have a camera. I mean, I had my normal photo digital camera that could take videos, but that's not going to cut it. So we've been thinking about a video camera. You know, we're like, oh, which one do we get? And I discovered this one that's coming out in a month or two, and I thought we would go get it because it has like internal flash memory, but also takes extra flash memory. And I was like, oh, that sounds good to me. That seems like it'll work for us. But I also got a new credit card, the second credit card I ever had in my life. And the old one is the Sony one, right, with all the points. So I was like, I need to get rid of these points. But absolutely nothing Sony makes is something I want.
Yeah,
I mean, I could have gotten a
what-
free PS2.
Or we could have gotten a cheap PS3.
Yeah, but if I would have gotten a PS3, I would have needed an HD TV, which I wasn't going to get.
Yeah.
At least not until I get a new house.
Also, at least one game.
Yeah, so it's like, then I'm thinking, well, I could just get a Sony camera. I was like, but is the Sony camera going to work with Linux and whatnot? Is it, there are all these questions. So I said, you know what? I went to the Best Buy, and I just got the cheapest hard drive based Sony camera they had, and I used the points on it. So it's going to cost almost nothing.
Now, our philosophy here is the same thing we did with Geeknights. And if any of you ever have a creative endeavor in front of you, this is what you should do when there's a capital purchase involved. Buy the cheapest whatever
That works.
and use it. You'll learn what things you need and don't need on the real one, and you'll know what to buy later. I mean, we bought a crappy little mixer, and then after a year of Geeknights, like, all right, I need another bus. God damn it, do I need another bus? So we bought a mixer with another bus.
Yep. So we're gonna use this cheap ass camera. It's actually not too bad. I mean, it's not HD, but it has a 30 gig hard drive
We're
in
making
it.
YouTubes.
Yeah.
We don't need HD.
So we're gonna make YouTubes and things and learn the video skills, and hopefully our YouTubes will be good in some way. I don't know. Also, I read that first Prince of Nothing book, so I was trying to get the second one.
Our Scott Backer.
Now, Amazon only has the third one. They don't have the first or the second one, at least not in paperback, and I buy no hardback. So I went to some bookstores, and I couldn't find it. You know what bookstore had all three of them in paperback?
The one in Grand Central.
The shitty one in Grand Central.
You know, I got to admit, that place isn't actually nearly as overpriced as I expected it to be.
Well, no, it was cover price, but it was still that bookstore usually has like the worst selection. Meanwhile, I went to the sort of highbrow bookstore near my work in Soho. It's all fancy. They didn't have that book, but if you went to the graphic novel section, they had like every highbrow graphic novel, like every single one, like every Will Eisner and everything Vertical publishes and everything. And I was like, look at that. I have all of those books. I don't need to buy any of them here.
Huh. So I got to ask one thing. We'll talk about this in much more detail someday in the future, but I've been kind of raving about The Prince of Nothing, The Darkness That Comes Before, and pretty much everyone has been trying to get Scott to read this book for a while. He finally read it. All I want to ask you, Scott, is it a good book?
It's a good book.
You should all read it. Seriously.
It wasn't like, so great that I should have dropped everything I was doing and read it. Like
I don't know. So far, it's one of the best books I've ever written. Read, not written. I did not write it.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's a good book.
What
but
better book have you read?
What?
What better book have you read?
A lot.
Like? Name one.
There's so many.
Yeah, I'm sure. Could you name one? Doesn't have to be the top one.
It's just there's so many. It's hard
Yeah,
to...
I'm sure.
American Gods, I think, is a better book.
American Gods is up there. I don't think American Gods said as much. It was an amazing
Cavalier and Clay is a better book.
I gotta read that first.
What?
I know that not so many classics coming out of you yet here.
Hamlet is
not a book.
It's a book.
It's also not that good.
I'm just saying.
I like Hamlet, but everyone likes Hamlet. And besides, you know what? I'm going to say this. Reading Hamlet is all well and good, but if you have not seen the Kenneth Branagh Hamlet, you do not know Hamlet. Good God, is that the best Hamlet ever?
Cat's Cradle's a better book.
All right. Anyway, So I got some news here. This is news that was relevant to me back in the year 2000, give or take. I don't think it'll be relevant to any of you. And if you think it's relevant, well, you're going to learn why it's not. So not everywhere in the United States does this, but there's something called the Advanced Placement Board and the AP test.
Oh, I saw that news.
And the deal, it amazes me how many people don't know that this is out there. But basically, what you can do in high school is you can pay like $70 and take a test with these people. And they give you a score from 1 to 5. 1 means you are a dumbass.
Really? Can you get lower than 1?
No.
So everything wrong is a 1.
Yes. The thing is,
If I get 1 right, do I get 2?
I don't. Pretty much the way it. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The way it actually works is a 5 means you know your shit, and a 4 is like okay, and a 3 is like yeah, you barely made it. And a lot of colleges will accept 3, 4s, or 5s, but I say colleges because the way this works is you take the test and you get a score, and they keep track of all your scores, and then you submit these scores to whatever college or university you attend. And pretty much any university worth a damn will give you credit, college credit, based on what classes you took.
So if you get a 4 on the AP calculus test, and then you go to college and they have, they say, oh, you're a computer science student. You need to take calculus classes in order to graduate.
You say, oh, no.
You say, oh, no. I got a 4 on the AP calculus test. You are going to make it. You're going to give me credit for those calculus classes, so I don't have to pay you for them. I already know that.
Now, different colleges have different requirements. I mean, so like if you're going into say biology, like you want to go pre-med, you better have gotten a 4 or 5 on that AP biology test, or they're not going to count it.
Yeah.
But if you're going into computer science, they'll probably take the 3 and let you not have to take a class, even though I don't think they should, because a 3 basically means you didn't really know your stuff.
Well, it's like a C. It's like normal. You knew, but you didn't know really well.
Yeah, but I got a 3 on the AP music theory test, and I'll admit openly that I knew jack all about music theory, and I guessed almost every question.
But you're not a moron.
Yeah, anyway. So these things are great.
Well, think about it. Is it multiple choice?
It's usually multiple choice, but unless they've changed it, the way it worked was you get like a point for every one you get right, but you lose points if you guess wrong as opposed to putting it blank.
So guessing on the whole thing won't get you a 3.
Unless you're really good at guessing, and they also usually have fairly extensive essay components.
Oh, okay.
Like the AP Bio test, actually, one of the essays was like describe the procedure and the lab procedures and things you would use to clone a frog. It was hardcore like that.
All right.
But I actually set the record at RIT. It was broken 2 years ago, but I had the most AP credits coming into RIT of any student ever before.
How do you know that?
Because they told me that. They said straight up when I transferred them in, wow.
How do you know it was broken?
Because then Al Biles came to me later and he's like, yeah, you broke the record. The record was 38.
Uh-huh.
And I had 41, but some kid got more than me a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, yeah, think about that. I went into RIT with 41 credits complete.
Mm-hmm.
You take AP classes. The tests are stupidly easy as long as you read the goddamn books. But here's the story. The college board, who kind of administers these
Isn't
tests.
it the AP board?
Well, the college board, AP board, same thing, doesn't matter.
All right.
They have announced that they have gotten rid of the AP Computer Science AB examination.
Well, you see, those letters are tricky. Like,
those letters mean a lot.
Because, like, in physics, right, there's physics A, physics B, physics AB.
Well, there's physics A, AB, there's also physics B, and there's physics BC, and then there's physics C.
Oh, right, it goes up to C, I forgot.
I'll break it down physics-wise. I know a lot about these because I actually got a lot of scholarships because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I took all these classes, and I actually met with, like, representatives of the board and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The way it works is pretty much A is high school level. Like, if you take the physics A test, no college is going to accept that for crap. And it's basically...
Well, they'll let you not have to take, like, basic physics.
Well, yeah, if high school physics is a requirement in your college program, then that will get you out of high school physics, basically.
Yep.
That's like the physics you take in 10th or 11th grade.
Mm-hmm.
The B level would be like introductory college class, like the basic physics class you would take in college is what the B test would be. The C test is... The C test that I took for physics involved double integration, calculating the charge distributions on complex three-dimensional surfaces. Why?
Because it's thumping around.
It's not hurting you in any way.
It's thumping the whole room.
Okay, I guess you don't like my thumping.
No, I don't.
Anyway, the C test was literally like you had to use double integrals and things and figure out electron distribution on complex three-dimensional surfaces in order to figure out like how much resistance a stream of some other kind of particle would be going over. Like it's crazy stuff. It's more than most people ever bother with. I got a 2 on that test.
It's stuff you probably won't even do in college unless you go into physics.
Yeah, like I actually, and now when they say like an A, B, or a B, C, that even gets more complicated. Like with calculus, the A test is like nothing. I don't even know if they have an A test for calculus, but there's the B or there's the BC. I don't think there's a straight up C. If you take the B, you took the B. If you take the C, you took the C, but they also look at all the B level questions within the test and they give you a subscore of what you would have gotten if you'd taken the B. So if you think you're smart and you want to go for it, you can take the harder test and not be dicked by that.
So they don't let you take the B and then the C separately. You can take the BC. That way, if you don't do well on the C, but you did really well on the B, then they're like, okay, well, you got a 4 on the B and a 2 on the C. You're okay.
Yep, pretty much.
All right.
But when it came to computer science, I'm going to tell you all straight up, the AP computer science test was absolutely worthless. It didn't involve anything that mattered at all ever, and you wouldn't learn crap from it.
Well, the problem with the AP computer science test is really these tests are designed to go along with high school classes. Like you would take AP biology as a class in high school, and then at the end of that class, you would take the test. And that class was designed to prepare you for the test.
Very few people would take the test without taking a class.
It was usually the hardest, class in school. I mean, in our school, it was pretty much you could take honors or you could take AP. And AP was like above honors, It was like the hardest class you could take. And the school would even tell you, don't take more than one AP class at a time because it's so hard.
I took like, actually, my junior year, I took 5 at the same time.
Yeah. But, yeah, so the computer science thing is really tricky because most schools don't have computer science class, especially not an AP level one.
And even worse, if you look at what the AP test covered, it was just useless crap. Like it wasn't anything that mattered.
I've never seen the test, so I don't know about it.
It's useless theoretical crap and nothing practical or useful in any way.
But anyway, the point is that, having a computer science AP test without worthwhile computer science classes in most of the schools really never made a lot of sense. And most of the people who would take it are people who learn software on their own, and then would, go and take this test in order to like get into a better, college or something like that.
But the main reason, if you need an example of why the test was worthless, if you went into RIT and IT or CS, if you got a 5, they wouldn't give you crap for that.
RIT
test.
gave you something.
They wouldn't for IT.
They put you into basically.
Oh yeah. But they didn't give you credit.
No, but instead of taking CS 1, 2, 3, 4, you take like special CS 1, 2, 3.
But you could take that anyway if you wanted to.
No, it was sort of like this. Well, you could, but you had to like be accepted. It was like it's sort of like the Head Start computer science program. It's like the same as the degree was no different. They just sort of like you had to take like a class or 2 less because it's like, okay, you already know basic CS, take these instead.
Yeah, it's like in IT. Some people needed the class on how to SSH and how to use like a Linux prompt, and the people who didn't need that could skip it.
Yep.
But this test is going away, and they're only going to have the A-level test now. And I'm not sure what curriculum changes they've had over the years, but looking through Slashdot comments, no one was ever impressed with this thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of the problem is just there really isn't enough, high school and below, computer science education in the country and or in the world, actually. And having such a high level test is really not a lot of people are going to take it, and even fewer people are going to do well on it.
The other problem is it's not like it's high level. Like if you study hard and learn it, it'll be like a great boon to you because you'd be better off learning much more practical things before you get to school.
Probably.
But I have a much larger rant about this that I'll save probably for Thursday involving education. But suffice to say, this is the news, and yes, I said suffice to say.
So check this out. You probably heard this news.
I'm checking.
People are all talking about the Windows 7.
What is Windows 7?
Well, it's obviously the Windows that's going to come after Vista.
But what happened to Windows 6?
It was Vista.
So what was Windows 5?
XP.
So what was Windows 4?
I guess ME, right?
So what was Windows 3?
98.
What happened to 2000?
Oh, all right.
It doesn't matter. I don't think anyone even really cares
NT?
anymore. But there was like the Windows track, but then there was the NT that was separate. And then eventually they got rid of the original Windows. I think that died out on ME.
Yeah.
And then like Windows 2000, XP was kind of based on 2000. Vista's kind of like the next step there.
Yeah. Anyway, the thing is it's it's weird because it's like Vista hasn't. The news all seems to be portraying Vista as like everyone hates it and it's an epic failure.
And a lot of people say they hate it. Everyone at my work is like, yeah, Vista sucks, but I don't see any justification, to be honest.
Yeah, in all honesty, the thing with Vista is that, it is a little bit annoying in the way you have to say okay a bunch of times, but I mean, I guess it's easier to click okay than in Linux you have to type in a whole password every time, right?
Well, plus, I mean, it's a lot of the problems with Vista are not actually Vista's problems, but they're the fact that most people who write software, even professionals, still write it incorrectly. Like, they don't even follow the rules that Microsoft puts forth to write good software.
Yep.
And everything needs to be run as administrator and all these problems. And they're not really Vista's fault. It's more that Microsoft has let people get away with writing crap for so long that people are still writing crap, but now Vista doesn't deal with it so well.
Yeah. I mean, Vista is, I've used it. And really, it's no better than XP, but it's not really worse either. It's just sort of the same with some Flash and, not Adobe Flash, but, like polish, visual polish and some extra features here and there and some such like that. And, it's like people like, oh, it's terrible. I mean, it's the same. It's like pick whichever one you want.
I think the part of the reason for this is that a lot of people remember the ME thing, and ME was an abortion. That was just a disaster.
ME was quite the disaster.
ME was an awful, awful operating system, and nothing good came of it, and everyone realized it right away, and it was pretty much maligned continuously. I think a lot of people are prematurely ME-izing Windows Vista.
Yeah. I mean, I really, Vista's not anything to, write home about. It's not fantastic or great, but, the media is really portraying it as like an epic failure when it's just sort of like a bleh.
I mean, I think part of the problem, though, is that because computing is just advancing and evolving, XP, if you look at purely a technological standpoint, is not obsolete yet and works just fine. It's not like before where Windows 98 didn't work and Windows 2000 was clearly better to the point that you could not upgrade. You needed Windows 2000. Same with between Windows 95 and Windows 98. I mean, 95 didn't deal well with USB, let alone a million other things. 98 was 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm.
XP is 1,000 times better. Vista is just the same thing, and the only reason you'd have to upgrade is because they're not going to support XP anymore.
Yep. But they, I guess because of all the, the bad press about Vista, Microsoft seems to be in sort of a rush to get out Windows 7. And I don't know what's going to come of this. Is it, because they still have all these issues, the antitrust, and they're, really, as much as that antitrust was appropriate back in the day, I really don't think it's appropriate anymore. I mean, with Apple and Linux, they're very viable software-wise, and if Microsoft manages to stay on top with that kind of competition, I don't think it's because of any sort of monopoly that needs to be, regulated. It's because they're, doing something.
Yeah, but everyone likes to hate Microsoft.
They still love to hate Microsoft, even though, really...
Of course, I'm starting to see more and more. I mean, I don't really remember this too much, but there was a time when Microsoft was the awesome guy, the underdog, the guy who's doing all the awesome, and IBM was the big, evil, horrible, fuck IBM, those bastards with their blah, blah, blah. And then, as Microsoft became successful, everyone decided, Microsoft, blah, and yay, Google. And now I'm starting to see this slow trend where a lot of people are really, really sour on Google, despite the fact that Google's making the same awesome they've always made.
Yeah, and you're seeing lots of Apple hate going around too. Of course, there's just still the Apple fanboys haven't gone anywhere either.
Yeah. Apple fanboys are unique because there aren't Google fanboys like there are Apple fanboys.
No.
Apple did that very well.
Yeah. Oh, this is just... You should be aware of it because it's like, well, I don't think it's worth it to go and buy Vista now if there's going to be a Windows 7 next year.
I'll put it this way. If you buy a new computer and it comes with Vista, great. Don't bother downgrading to XP. There's no reason to. But don't pay.
Unless you have shit that doesn't work with Vista, which could happen.
But almost everything works with Vista, except anything Computer Associates wrote, because they can't program worth a damn. But I digress. But anyway, Yeah, don't pay to upgrade because Windows 7 is going to come out, and then you're probably going to want that because it's probably going to have a lot of the stuff that was supposed to be in Vista, except they rushed it out the door.
I think really Microsoft problem as a whole is they've had this, this plan of, okay, we'll upgrade Windows every so many years. And then there's, mostly security fixes, not really feature updates so
I mean,
much.
Windows 2000 is still largely usable, except for the fact that you can't get updates to it anymore for security.
Yeah. I mean, and like XP, what features have they added to XP since it started? Not much, except for security updates in IE7.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's still mostly, as far as anyone can tell, the same kernel, the same basic functionality.
Yeah, I mean, they might have had some performance tweaks and security tweaks, but they haven't changed, the features for the users that much at all. So it's like, you look at Linux and you look at OS X, and they're just sort of constantly, or at least more constantly, updating the features, at least for the user. I mean, new OS X's, in terms of how long there was between XP and Vista, there were like 2 or 3 new OS X versions that had a significant, Apple's all like, check out our Leopard, over a bajillion new features, And while a lot of those features are just sort of nothing, there are a lot of new features in the Leopard versus the Tiger. New features in the Vista versus the XP. Oh, it's shiny. This is sidebar. It's a little more secure.
I'll admit, I like the sidebar, but there's no reason they couldn't have put that in XP.
Yeah,
You could run that as an application.
yeah, I know, right? So it's like, what are the new features?
But
Meanwhile,
seriously?
Linux, new features every week, new features every hour, as people are constantly writing new software. And as soon as they write it, it's open source. So as soon as they write the feature, you have the feature. No waiting. It's just if you're using the Ubuntu Hardy Beta, you're getting daily updates, like constantly, with all sorts of crazy shit that's going on. And there's new Ubuntu's every 6 months. We're talking about, Vista took how many years? 5, 6, 7 years? Forever. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe I think if they come out with Windows 7 next year and they do pull it off somehow, maybe it'll start like a sort of an annual Windows update thing. And I think that would actually be a much better strategy for them. If it's like we're gonna actually update the features of Windows every year, Windows 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. I think that would do them well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tricky.
Look. Linux, Unix, etc. have had virtual desktops, right, for how many years? Since like the 70s almost.
Even
right?
in XP, and Vista, I got to use a power tool or something to have multiple desktops.
OS X just added virtual desktops, aka spaces, in the newest version that came out less than a year ago. Something which Linux, Unix, etc. has had for at least a decade, if not 2, right? Windows still doesn't have it. Vista still does not have this basic feature. It's like a mandatory feature, still not in Vista.
How long did it take for IE to get tabs?
I know, right?
But things of the day. I'm going to try something again. I did this a while ago where I had my own personal kind of theme week with things of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You might remember I had Hitler was born to be alive week, which was kind of awesome, I thought.
All right.
But anyway, this one's much more coherent, and I actually kind of have something relevant and poignant to say at the end, but I got to get through all of it. So, all of my things of the day this week will be related to something that you've probably heard many times, but like most people, you probably didn't actually know what it was. There's a song.
Or at least all the full history.
Yeah, or in the very least, you didn't know the name of the song or anything, but as soon as you hear it, you go, oh, that song, I remember that, I know that song.
You did a really bad job of trying to portray what song it was.
I can't sing, what do you want from me? Besides, those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end.
See, that's totally off.
That's kind of how it's sung by a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's not the way you sang it there did not help me. But as soon as I saw the video, I was like, oh, that song.
So how would you sing it?
A lot slower. And
Try it. I'm curious.
I don't think.
Do it.
That's not gonna happen.
You're a shit talker.
I didn't say I could do it. I just said you couldn't.
Yeah. Anyways, when you hear some of the other things of the day I've got, you'll see what I was doing. But anyway, so this song, Those Were the Days. Now you're probably thinking, oh yeah, that song. Well, the history of this song is actually kind of interesting. I stumbled upon a music video to it that I'm not. This is what I'm saving for the end. The reason I'm doing this week. But I like, oh yeah, that song. Oh, those people performed it. Oh, so did these people. And I wondered about it. So I did a little research, and there's kind of a really interesting thread that almost comes full circle here. So this song, Those Were the Days, was written by Gene Raskin a long time ago. And while it was first played by some band called the Limelighters, who also apparently played another fairly famous song first well before anyone else was playing it, it was performed by a woman named Mary Hopkin in 1968. Now, Mary Hopkin and her little single album was produced by none other than Paul McCartney. And funnily enough, the B-side of this album was actually Turn, 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 which was made famous by the Byrds. It was actually a really great song.
Yep.
But this song, which became super popular worldwide, especially in Britain, my first thing of the day I'm linking here is actually the first kind of music video to this song by Mary Hopkin, which is back when music videos were a lot different from what they are now. But the cool thing is, the song was actually a translation of a much older song. I'm going to butcher this Cyrillic here, but Dorogoi Dlinyoyu.
That, yeah, Russian.
Dlinyoyu. There's, oh, I can't say an O and then a U without, anyway. But this was written by Boris Forman. I can say that in the... Boris Forman. In the kind of...
Watch out for moose and squirrel.
In early 1900s. But, that song was actually based on a poem by Konstantin Podrevsky.
All right.
Or I don't know if he actually wrote the lyrics to it or if it was based on the song, based on the poem directly. But anyway, so this old Russian folk song or poem was turned into a very popular song in the late 60s by someone who also on their B-side happened to have Turn, Turn, Turn. So my things of the day are the original 1968 Mary Hopkin rendition and the best video I could find of the actual Russian version.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee that this will get much more interesting later in the week.
All right, so there's this artist, right, in Canada, I think. And I think it's Canada anyway.
Huh?
And he took an old Buick, right? But he took all the shit out of it, like the engine and all the stuff, right? And he changed it into a car that's, you know, it's like, you know, you go to Wildwood or some vacation place and they have those sort of multiple, like, people bicycle things, but it's not like a bicycle. It's like a little car, but everyone pedals. He sort of turned this real car into a pedal car, like the Flintstones. So 4 people sit in the car, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. The driver steers. There's brakes, like little, you know, hand brakes. One brake does the left 2 tires, and the right brake does the right 2 tires. And it's got drums. And it's a pedal car. It's a full-size Buick frame, but it's a pedal car, right? And it's, you know, it's sort of like this great, you know, work of art in a way. It was actually in like a gallery and stuff, because it's like, oh, we have the contrast of the giant monstrosity of a Buick with the, you know, the pedaling, you know, it's kind of like, ah, right? So, these 4 people were hanging out with the artist or something, and they borrowed the car. And they drove around Toronto with it.
That's kind of awesome.
Right?
You know, I used
so
to...
it can go like 15 miles an hour, and it's you know, the brakes work and whatever. And the thing is, the car actually was driven around Manhattan at one point, I believe. But they drove it around Toronto, and
Did they get pulled over?
They got pulled over, and they got a ticket.
What was the ticket for?
I think like driving an unsafe vehicle or something bullshit. Operating an unsafe vehicle.
I have a feeling that vehicle is perfectly safe for all involved.
So they went. They also had no license plates or anything. But
okay,
I mean,
that I can understand why they were pulled over.
But it's basically a bicycle. A bicycle doesn't need license plates.
Huh.
Right? So they went to court and they won, but this is the thing of the day because of all the funny things that made them win. For example, instead of headlights, they had 2 little tea lights, you know, the little candles.
Ooh.
Right? So I think there was an argument that was like, the guy in courts, he said, what would happen if a lit candle hit another car?
Nothing. Nothing.
There were also such funny lines as, oh yes, the car is so dangerous, going 15 miles an hour. Oh, good Lord, what if it hits somebody? You know, they're like, this car isn't dangerous. All the other cars are dangerous. And that's sort of like the artistic message of it is like, you know, but yeah, you should check this out. There's a video of them being pulled over and all sorts of funny lines from court and such. But I think they won. It's a victory for all.
But moving on to the main bit, we're getting kind of bored with doing this kind of alternating ITCS thing, at least for the time being. We haven't gotten any feedback at all from you people if you like this or not. So I guess we're going to stop it temporarily. If you liked it, say something. If you didn't like it, say you didn't like it, and we won't do it again anytime soon.
Yeah, I know. It's like Scott's box got so much feedback.
Well, because your box is so... Anyway.
Which means I think I got to keep doing it or change it maybe, but this is getting no feedback, the ITCS alternating.
And we know you're all listening, so I don't know. Is this useful to you? Do you care?
I have no idea.
I was debating what to talk about tonight because a lot of the topics I have are very, very specific or very, very esoteric.
You got to find the in-between.
So I think I kind of want to talk a little bit about the overview of not really IT security, but you know how you see like on TV or in a movie, like Hackers movie where Penn Jillette was actually in there. You see like this big data center full of computers, and there's like that guy who's sitting at a console surrounded by 100 monitors with colors and everything, and he's watching the network. And when the hackers come in,
there's just skulls everywhere.
And he's the one fighting the hackers and yelling and screaming and calling people on the phone and be like, did you get those firewalls up? Because the Cookie Monster's breaking through the Little D. Gibson and I need to blah, 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 blah. And
meanwhile, there's like a skull coming across his monitor and then it explodes.
Man, I've said this before, but Hackers the movie and The Craft were the exact same movie. The Craft was what Wicca wish Wicca was, and Hackers was what hackers wish hacking was.
Yeah.
Oh, man, if hacking was like that.
Well, it's what hacker wannabes wish hacking was.
I wish hacking was that way.
Well, you're a wannabe. You're not a hacker.
I've hacked.
What have you hacked?
When I was in middle
Script
school.
Kitty? Wannabe? You haven't hacked shit.
I'm talking more about look at that culture.
Could you own anyone at DEF CON? No, you could not own.
Could
you would get owned.
own anyone at DEF CON?
It would take me a lot longer than those guys.
I'm talking more about what if I could actually hack the sprinkler system at my school to go off whenever I wanted to without using the simple method of lighting a fire under it.
That's that's actually hacking.
Yeah, I know, but I wish it were like the movies. Anyway. Of course, the Matrix got it right when she SSH'd, even though that's all we saw, and everyone lost their shit about, oh, she typed SSH, it's real hacking, OMG.
Not really, but whatever.
Yeah, but anyway, so those things, the kind of console of the guy sitting there yelling and screaming with a million monitors, they exist more than you might realize, but I think I need to say that they're not quite like that.
They're not like the movies, but there are places where there are people with lots of screens monitoring what's going on the internets and other networks.
So I'm going to talk about kind of a few levels of network monitoring, because the easiest one, the biggest one, is kind of the big iron knock, the network operations center, like the kind of thing that the super gigantic company has. And they actually do look a lot like what you saw in Hackers. The only real difference is that, one, usually the people paid to watch those screens are not super technical people. They're basically just people hired to watch the screens and call someone else if something changes color.
Yep. They're also, so they can be pretty impressive, but they usually have less fancy graphics and more boring information.
But they look like, in terms of setup, they're often the same. Like, you'll have this wall of monitors. At IBM, we actually had a wall of monitors. There were like 20 monitors, and each one had a different thing on it, and all these statuses and things everywhere. And we had these more centralized monitors, and then we had in the back a full replica of like the setup in one of the remote sites, and then another replica of the setup locally, so we could like go there to diagnose problems without having to go out to sites and all this crazy stuff. But there were no 3D skulls. There were green boxes that turned orange or yellow or red, depending on if something was going wrong, after possibly paging someone.
Yep.
And if you knew about a problem, you turned it dark green to say, yes, I'm working on it. And other people could look and say, oh,
Yeah.
that's dark green. RIM must be working on it.
I mean, a lot of those operation centers, while, they have their uses, most places, right, for monitoring, they basically just have all the tech people have Blackberries or whatever. And if something goes wrong, the computers are, there are other computers that watch. So it's like their computers watching the other computers. And if they see something go wrong, they send someone an email that says, hey, something went wrong.
Well, see, the tricky part there is that in as far as I have seen, the vast majority of companies in the United States have effectively no network monitoring whatsoever.
Or very little.
I'm talking none. Think the vast majority. Think about all the businesses in Beacon that have some computers networked and an internet connection. They have nothing watching their network.
No, they got nothing.
And think about even most like mechanics and like higher up, like the car dealerships there. It's doubtful that they have much watching their network, if anything.
I don't think they really need. They pretty much care working or not working. They.
Well, that and thus brings up there are two basic kinds of network monitoring. And see, I'm really going to try to only talk about the overview, and I'm not going to talk about SNMP OIDs or anything scary. So, basically, you can break down network monitoring into two categories: proactive and reactive. Now, you might think, oh, well, obviously everyone should have proactive. Like, that's the right solution. And reactive is kind of like what you do if you don't know better or you're poor.
Well, no, proactive is more like only for really serious business.
Well, it's more that it's a matter of cost-benefit. Like, take the example of the people watching the system. And if you look at the money it costs to set up a sophisticated, smart system that will monitor other systems, determine what's wrong, determine who to page, and only page those people and apply logic, it's actually a lot cheaper to set up a much cheaper reactive solution and then hire someone at near minimum wage to watch it. And then they have a book that says, if this turns red, call this person. If this turns red, call this person. And as a result, and even beyond that, well, maybe I should clarify a little bit and actually explain. Proactive means I have systems that are monitoring my systems, polling. They're active. It's kind of like active sonar. I ping all my servers, and I have a system that looks and says, well, I pinged the production server. It's still up. Well, I pinged the backup server. It's still up. Well, I pinged the development box. I pinged it again. Ah, shit, the development box is down. Better page RIM to come fix it. Uh-oh, RIM didn't respond to the page. I'll page him again. Uh-oh. He didn't respond to the page still. I'm paging his manager and telling him that RIM didn't respond to the page.
Uh-oh. RIM must be in the shitter.
Possibly, or I don't care.
No.
It depends. It's tricky because there's a fine line with proactive monitoring between monitoring effectively and knowing when things go down and information overload where I get paged when someone visits my website, and I get paged when someone leaves my website, and I get paged when I get an email, and I get paged when Bob gets an email, and I get paged when an email bounces, and I get paged when a bit comes in, I get paged when another bit comes in, and I get paged when that bit finishes coming in. You can go way overboard with monitoring, and it'll get to the point where even if you're monitoring everything in the world, so much information is coming in that even if you have very smart people in your NOC, if you get 1,000 traps in an hour, how are you going to know which ones matter and which ones don't? And if you're getting traps that don't matter, why even send the traps? You're not gaining anything. That level of monitoring is not helping you.
No, not really.
Now, reactive monitoring is what most people use, where basically you don't so much monitor the systems, but at the highest end, you wait for traps. Now, I'm not going to explain that in detail, but there is a way with something called SNMP, the Simple Network Management Protocol, where a computer or a device can send out a trap if something goes wrong. Like, say I've got a router, like your Linksys router, and say I set it up so that if it loses a connection on one of the ports, the port that I know goes out to the internet, it'll send a trap to my monitoring machine that says, hey, I lost internet. And if the internet comes back, it'll send another trap saying, hey, I has an internet.
Mm-hmm.
So then I could set it up to where the system receives that trap. And it goes, all right, the internet is down. I know this. I'm going to wait 5 minutes. If in those 5 minutes I have not received a trap saying it's back up, I'm going to page RIM. Now, that's a reactive solution. I'm not polling actively. I'm getting the device. I'm relying on the device to tell me something's wrong. If the switch,
what if the router breaks and it loses the internet?
yes, if I don't get the trap because both interfaces went down or the router caught fire, unless I have a fire trap that comes in. And there's actually a funny story about that. I got a trap once at IBM from an old device that effectively said the device is on fire. It did not actually mean that, but that is what it said. And much hilarity ensued as we tried to figure out if that was actually what was happening. But anyway, so at its highest level, that is reactive monitoring. On its lowest level is you don't monitor at all, but you might have kind of a system status thing that says like it's up, it's down, but doesn't do anything. It's just there. Maybe it's on a big screen in the NOC. Maybe you have a system where you can just SSH in and see if it's up. And you don't care until a customer calls and says, hey, Rim, I can't get to your website. You go, let me look into that. Yep, the website's down. I see why it's down. I'm going to fix it. And that's the kind of monitoring Geeknights has. We have purely customer-based reactive monitoring. We don't know if frontrowcrew.com is down. We don't care if it's down.
Unless we are the customers, which we are occasionally.
Yes, but if it goes down, pretty much within a couple minutes, all of you bastards email us, hey, it's down, it's coming back up. I can't get to the forum. Are you guys okay? Are you dead? So, in a way, you guys kind of act as our reactive monitoring.
That's good, because I don't have an extra computer to devote to that.
Yeah, and I mean, beyond that, really, the idea of network monitoring, much like the idea of any kind of monitoring, terrorist monitoring, if you're the government, or intelligence monitoring, the thing you really need to think about is that, and the thing that IT people are paid to think about, what information do I need? What business impact am I trying to avert? I mean, yeah, Rim, it's great that you're monitoring the MP3 server for the office and you get a priority 1 critical page if the MP3 server goes down. But it'd really be nice if you noticed that the database server that our production database is on went down like 5 times yesterday.
Oh.
I'm glad that you didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to think about your core business. And I talked about this before, but IT, unless you are an IT company, is not your business. IT makes the business go. So monitoring if the switches are at 80% or 90% efficiency is not nearly as important as monitoring if your production web server database is up or not.
Yeah, it's like if your company sells apples, the number one thing is you want to make sure that apples are always able to be bought and sold. You might, have some monitoring that tells you that, some Apple, I guess Apple computer's a bad word. That some computer over somewhere is going slower than it could be, or something else is kind of funky over to the left or to the right. But if the buying and selling of apples is in danger, that is priority number 1.
And then you think about what you need for your business to continue going, how much money you could lose if it's not running, and then how long would you be willing to wait before someone fixes it? And depending on the answers to all those questions, you have a much better idea of, all right, well, we need all of our engineers to be paged 24/7 if this goes down, because we're screwed if that goes down. Everything else can wait until the morning. We don't even need to page. We'll just have a status page that everyone checks in the morning to see if, hey, it's up, hey, it's not up, and we can fix it whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go into any more detail because SNMP and network monitoring solutions and all those things are incredibly complicated. But I guess suffice to say, I think you get the gist of it. And starting next week, we're going to go back to our normal, regularly scheduled Monday Geek Nights. Maybe we'll do a tech news roundup or something to start it off again.
No, that's not.
We'll see. If anyone has a suggestion, Monday calendar's pretty much open. The first good suggestion we get will do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking because I was reminded again, because periodically people find old internet things from myself and Scott. And I kind of want to do a show about the old stuff on the internet that comes back to haunt people and funny websites you put up when you were 14 that are now funny in a different way when you're 25. Plus, actually, I think there's a lot of interesting things about that. Because think about it. The first generations are coming up. Imagine political elections and political issues 20 years from now. The only way to have a candidate who didn't do something embarrassing on the internet at some point is to groom political candidates from birth on and make sure that they never have a MySpace ever.
Yep.
And in that case, maybe we'll have some sort of case system where there are people who are born to be politicians and no one else can ever be one. Or maybe our expectations of politicians will...
Maybe you should save it for an episode that's
Maybe
about that.
I will. Does that sound interesting? Should we do it next week?
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
If someone doesn't come up with something better, why not?
All right.
Whatever.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.